Welcome, one and all, to the All-Star Break edition of the Ultimate Cleveland Guardian Show. Along with Zach Meisel, I'm Adam the Bull. And Zach, what are you doing this All-Star break? Anything All-Star E?
Oh, yeah. My 3-year-old loves baseball cards, as you know, Bull. And
Yeah.
it was pretty cool when they showed the graphic of the home run derby participants last night. He runs up to the TV and just starts naming everybody. So
That's wild.
I feel like this is year one of hopefully many to come of my kid or kids
Yeah.
being into this stuff. And it's evoking, we spent all morning talking about players that I watched in the All-Star game and home run derby growing up.
Yep.
So, you get that nostalgia. These are like the joys of parenthood, right?
That's certainly true. It's always fun. I still have an audio recording my wife and I do of my son Aaron when he was, I don't know, probably 3 or 4, doing the Cubs lineup. Like I was like, who plays first? And those are things that are fun and capture those moments. You want to be in the moment, but you also want to capture the moment. So it is cool. And did he enjoy watching the big dumper win the home run derby?
Yeah, he loves that nickname.
That's the best.
His picks though were he had Brent Rooker and O'Neill Cruz were his two guys. So he didn't stay up to watch the whole thing. He's 3, but he watched part of it. And then when he woke up this morning, I told him Cal Raleigh won, and because Brent Rooker was his guy, and at the time he went to sleep, Brent Rooker was in the lead.
Yeah.
He thought Brent Rooker had won, and it did not go over well.
Oh, okay. It's always bad when the kids are sad. That and more coming up on today's Ultimate Cleveland Guardian Show. It hurts when the kids are crying about sports. You remember those things when you're a kid, but when your own kid is bummed, it's tough. It pulls on the heartstrings there a little bit. And those were good picks, actually. I saw this scientific breakdown from some guy who does analytics as to why he thought O'Neill Cruz was going to win the home run. It's interesting. I hadn't really thought about this, and guys like the guys who are good home run hitters, but not as big, guys like Jose Ramirez, don't usually do well in these tournaments. And I was like, I didn't really think about, I never really thought gave reason. I never really thought about why that was the case. And this guy pointed out that they're pitching so much slower. So you got to generate your own power more. And so a big guy is naturally going to have that advantage in that situation.
Think about a normal batting practice session before a game, and you're going at your own pace, right? You're just trying to get in a rhythm. And then this is furious. You're taking 40 swings in 3 minutes. So you see these guys are gassed at the end of these rounds, and it's a completely different animal. You're going at a pace you don't normally go at.
Right.
And you're swinging harder than you normally do.
Yeah.
And you've got a different sort of adrenaline too, right? Like you normally take batting practice and there's like a handful of fans in the ballpark and music's going and it's pretty quiet. And then this is a spectacle. So it's very different. I think it's an advantage to guys who are just athletic freaks or guys who have a big backside.
Yeah. It's funny. When he was very good. Ryan Howard was really good at this competition. And I remember when I was calling his games in Batavia in A-ball, right? And, I'd always be there for when they did batting practice on the field because I traveled with the team. And so he was drafted by the Phillies in 2001. And in his first year pro ball, he played in Batavia. And he was just so much bigger than all the other guys on the team. And Batavia, and just in general at the time, the New York Penn League was not a big home run league. Like there were not a lot of home runs. There was one year, I think 7 home runs led the league. I mean, most of the ballparks were hard to hit home runs, especially for guys, a lot of guys that may have been playing with wooden bats for the first time, or, besides some of those leagues they did in the summer or whatever. But so they were adjusting, and it was big ballparks. But anyway, like in batting practice, most of the guys wouldn't hit home runs even in batting practice. They did, and he would just go bomb, bomb, bomb to right field. And then he hit a home run to center field once at the stadium in a game that I want to say was like 100 feet past the home run. It probably wasn't that far. It probably just seemed that far to me, but it was like out by a mile. And the rest of the second leader, and I think he hit like 15 home runs or something like that. And the next guy had like 3 or 4. It was just weird. But the big guys like that, it's just noticeable. It's just easier for them to hit home runs in those type of situations.
It's crazy too. This is not to get on like the things were better back in the day soapbox, but your favorite Cubs writer, Patrick Mooney, and I combined on a Matthew Boyd feature today on The Athletic. And
oh, nice. I got to read it.
And, Boyd, who was in Cleveland last summer and had an awesome run and has been incredible this year. He's got the second best ERA in the National League.
Yep.
And he's an all-star. And I was talking to him a couple weeks ago, and he was saying, he grew up in the Pacific Northwest, not far from where the Mariners play, and his dad surprised him with tickets to the 2001 festivities. So they went to the All-Star game. That was when Cal Ripken Jr. hit a home run in his last All-Star game. I had no recollection of the home run derby that year, so I was looking it up because they went to that too.
Yeah.
And Luis Gonzalez won it.
Yeah.
And that year was insane in baseball for many reasons. But Luis Gonzalez hit 57 home runs that year. Kind of random. The Diamondbacks won the World Series in an epic Game 7. But I was looking at the field, and Luis Gonzalez somehow outslugged Barry Bonds and Sammy Sosa.
That's
and
funny.
Jason Giambi had like a crazy display in the first round. So you think about, look, like last night, there were some young, like Junior Caminero is a star in the making, right? And I know that had to pain Chris Antonetti and Mike Chernoff to watch that.
Oh, yeah.
And like O'Neal Cruz has a ton of talent, and it's good to see Cal Raleigh and the year he's having get even more attention, right?
Sure.
But like, you look at some of the names that used to do this thing every year, and it was like, that was the year Barry Bonds had 73 home runs.
Right? Even until recently, I feel like it's just the last year or two that guys are starting to drop off. And, because Pete Alonso, I want to see Pete Alonso again because he's great at it. You want to see Judge, obviously. You want to see Ohtani out there. Here's the, do you know offhand who won the first home run derby in 85?
No, it wasn't Brooke Jacoby.
It definitely was not. He recently went into the Hall of Fame based on like the Veterans Committee or whatever they're calling it now.
Recently, as in he will next weekend?
You know what? I can't remember now.
Like Dave Parker?
Dave Parker, yes. Okay. It is this week. I couldn't remember if it was last year or this year, but
who also recently passed. Rest in peace.
Yes. One of the greatest nicknames, the Cobra. That's another thing that's not as good these days as nicknames.
Oh, Big Dumper is pretty.
That's a good one, yes. But there's
that
not
will stand the test of time. Yeah, but it's crazy. I'm looking at this 2001 field. Barry Bonds so that's the year he set the record, and also I think he was like 37 years old.
Oh yeah.
No 37-year-old is going to do the home run derby anymore. You had Sammy Sosa, Jason Giambi. Those guys are at the peak of their powers. Yeah. You had A-Rod. Also, it was the year after he left Seattle for Texas.
Oh yeah.
Brett Boone is kind of random, but he was incredible that year. And the Mariners won 116 games.
Yeah.
Todd Helton was an awesome hitter.
Yeah.
Troy Gloss is the one guy who maybe like.
Yeah, it doesn't fit.
But he had some 40
home run hitter though.
Yeah, but he hit 0 in the competition. Yeah. So I just look. It's not to like say things were better way back when. Also, Barry Bonds did it the year after too.
He did it a bunch of times. You have a lot of like Hall of Famers or borderline Hall of Famers that have won it. You got Parker in 85, Strawberry won in 86. If Strawberry had stayed clean, he probably would have been a Hall of Famer or was trending in that direction. 87 was Andre Dawson, a Hall of Famer. 88 got canceled. 89 was Eric. Ended up a tie between Eric Davis and Ruben Sierra.
Griffey won it 3 times.
Yep. Sandberg, Cal Ripken, McGuire, Bonds, Frank Thomas, Ken Griffey Jr. 3 times, Sammy Sosa, Jason Giambi, not a Hall of Famer, but big-time power hitter. The weirdest one, Ryan Howard, Bobby Abreu won in 2005. And
And then like
Yoenis
7 years
Cespedes
later,
going 13 and 14.
almost signed with Cleveland.
Bobby Abreu?
Yeah, there was like a spring training where that was close to happening.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
2012, maybe.
Yeah. Anyway, the National League is a slight favorite tonight. The American League has dominated the All-Star game, but the National League, if they don't win tonight, I mean, it's a much better team.
So I wanted to mention this just because I don't want to sound
Get to
like
the Guardians folks in a minute, but
the crotchety old man here,
Yeah.
Who's saying I missed when things were better. The National League lineup looks like the
Yes.
lineup that I watched growing up. You know,
Yeah.
I saw the highlight the other day. Remember in '99, Pedro Martinez started at Fenway. And by the way, like that's the height of the steroid era. Everyone's putting up crazy video game numbers at the plate. And then you look at Pedro Martinez's numbers pitching.
I know.
It's like that guy deserved MVPs.
Yeah.
And he's facing like McGuire, Sosa, Helton. Like it's insane. The 6 hitters he faced, and he struck out 5 of them.
Yeah.
Was just incredible. But I was looking at the National League lineup, and I'm like, you know what? This is one of those lineups you're going to look back in 20 years and say, man, that thing was loaded with Ohtani and with Freddie Freeman and Ronald Acuna. I mean, you have Francisco Lindor's hitting 8th. I think that says a lot.
Yeah, my guy Pete Crow Armstrong hitting 9th. The guy might be the MVP of the National League.
Yeah,
contrary to popular belief. Yeah, it's great. And then the American League, you know, I wanted him on the Guardians, but Gleyber Torres, Riley Green, and then 6 through 9, Ryan O'Hearn, Junior Caminero, Javi Baez, Jacob Wilson. It's not a who's who list, but yeah, I mean, if the National League doesn't win this year, I don't know when the hell they're going to win. And I think I'm predicting a unusual, surprise, high-scoring game this year. I think it's going to be like
a lot of pitchers with good stuff.
I know, but I just
including some who have made 5 starts in their career.
That's, you know what? Ultimately, whatever the fans want is fine. I don't know if the fans want him to pitch or not. The guy's been incredible in those 5 starts, or 4 of the 5. It's absurd. I mean, it's silly. It's unfair. And there's truly deserving all-stars that didn't make the team.
And that affects, you know, guys have like contract clauses, or it could play into, you know, someone's Hall of Fame consideration down the line, or contract stuff down the line. Like if I were him, I'd be a little embarrassed to go. Yeah.
I guess not, but
up until the point where he's firing 102 miles an hour, and then I think everyone's going to forget about it.
That's right. It has been pretty impressive. The Brewers are a sneaky, like we talk about the Rays and the Guardians all the time of being like the smart franchises, and they always outkick their coverage or whatever. The Brewers are, and they haven't had any success in the postseason, but man, they're always good. They're always good in this most recent group that's been there, and they consistently. A couple of weeks ago, I was hearing people say, "Oh, the Cubs are going to run away with the Central," and the Cubs are good. They're a good team this year, but I didn't think they were going to run away with the Central because I knew the Brewers. I didn't believe in the Cardinals, but I knew the Brewers were legit. It doesn't matter. They lose players and they just find guys to replace them. They're really good at that.
They're one of the few teams in the league that has like too much starting pitching. I mean, that's how
crazy.
Yeah, they had to end up trading away Aaron Savali because Savali was moved to the bullpen because they didn't have a spot for him.
I know Tobias Myers, who had pitched nicely for them last year. He's been up and down between the majors and the minors. Now he's out of their pen right now too.
Yeah,
they just
Tobias Myers is the example. The Guardians lost that trade twice. I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
Trade away Junior Caminero, who's 22 years old, starring in the All-Star game and Home Run Derby. And they traded him for Tobias Myers, who was terrible for like 2/3 of a season at AAA. And so they cut him. And then he goes on and becomes a really good pitcher for the Brewers.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the Guardians and did they keep their season alive? Are they still in the playoff mix? Before we do that, I want to hear from a couple of sponsors. First, let's start with FanDuel. Zach, what do we got going on at FanDuel?
Yeah, both summer sports are in full swing. So whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action, so why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, You can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. And is there a better day than today? You've got the All-Star game. Who's going to win the MVP? Who's going to get 3 punch outs? Who's going to hit a home run? I mean, there's a lot of stars you can get behind. And if you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to get started.
All right, Zach, good job out of you. Let's move on to Game Time. How about that? Game Time. If you've ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family, maybe it's a game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Game Time comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merchandise, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Game Time makes it possible. Game Time makes buying tickets fast and simple. In fact, I use Game Time because I am going to see the Cubs play the Blue Jays in Toronto in August. And I didn't wait till the last minute. I should have. I would have definitely gotten a better deal, but I just jumped on Game Time right away. And there you go. So I'm going to the game. Game Time is the official ticketing partner of Locked On MLB, making it easy to browse the app for exciting upcoming MLB games, including the ones I mentioned. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, Game Time. Download, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNFL, LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Okay, the Guardians had been playing terrible baseball. They had lost 10 in a row last time we spoke, Zach, and they turned it around, at least for a week. They swept the Astros, and I would say their most impressive series of the year. They pitched well. They hit well in that series. They crushed Hunter Brown, who had been one of the best pitchers in baseball. They hit Angel Martinez. It's a grand slam off of Josh Hader after they had blown that 6-0 lead or 6-1 lead, whatever.
Grand slam pop-up, but yes.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, fair. It wouldn't have been a home run in any other park. But nonetheless, he was playing at that park, so that's all that matters. And it was a great series. They followed it up by taking 3 of 4 versus the White Sox. We know the White Sox stink. We also know that after the break, the Guardians have a fairly favorable schedule. Now, a lot of those teams are also going to look at the Guardians and say, well, we got a favorable schedule playing the Guardians. That being said, do you feel like, and with 16 days to go till the trade deadline, do you feel like what happened last week will change the game plan at all for this front office?
Yeah, it's a tough question because this is an organization that doesn't like to make decisions based on a small sample, clearly, right? Like,
yes,
we're still watching Nolan Jones and Bo Naylor and everybody else, right? I think a lot's on the table still. I think there's a few things in play. Number one, just me personally, I'd feel better about their path forward if they had more guys who I could see the vision with. And what I mean by that is you can convince me that Nolan Jones is an acceptable member of this lineup, right? Like, he's been better for about 2 months. I don't know why he doesn't hit for power anymore. Like, everything is just singles with him. I think it's just, my assumption is it's the approach and it's the swing path, and it's just a choice in trying. He's hit for a good average for 2 months now, and he's drawn a bunch of walks, but he's got 3 home runs this season, and this is a guy who had 20, 30 home run potential. Yeah. So, like, okay, fine. Like, he's been better, and that's trending in the right direction. I still think Kyle Manzardo, I mean, he had a great weekend. I think he's a guy I want to see more of, right? The issue to me is for this team to be at its best, they really need Lane Thomas. They really need David Fry. They really need Bo Naylor or Brian Rocchio. And honestly, they really need Chase DeLauder or someone of that ilk who has more potential than like there's a couple days a week where this lineup 5 through 9 is like Angel Martinez, Jonathan Rodriguez, Will Wilson, Austin Hedges, Brian Rocchio. And that's just not a major league lineup. So I'd feel better if there was just evidence of some changes taking place or more guys looking like they're figuring it out. So that's part one. That's why I'm still skeptical. They have the 12th best record in the American League. Okay. Yeah. So there's only 3 teams worse. There's a lot of teams that they have to leapfrog here. And I think that has to, factor into the equation too. You can say, well, they're 4.5 games behind the final wildcard spot. Yeah. But sitting between them in that final wildcard spot are the Royals and the Twins and the Angels and the Rangers and the Rays and, the Red Sox and the Yankees and the Mariners are all kind of clustered together. And so it's just, there's a lot of clutter to sift through. The thing that keeps you on the hook, I guess, is that coming out of the break, you do get the Athletics and the Orioles at home, and those are winnable series. You go to Kansas City for 3. You can win 2 or 3 there for sure. And then you have the Rockies for 3 at home. So there's a way the team can maybe force the front office's hand, whereas 2 years ago, which this season has been eerily reminiscent of 2023, that team was just hovering around 500 forever.
Right.
And they got to the deadline. And part of the thinking from the front office was they had a brutal schedule in the second half. And they didn't like their chances. And so they traded Aaron Savali for Kyle Manzardo. They dumped Josh Bell. They dumped Ahmed Rosario. And in some cases, they went younger. They also brought in Cole Calhoun for clubhouse purposes.
Yeah.
So I think, I really think everything's still on the table. I think a lot of this is just going to depend on the market. And it's going to depend on what other teams are buying and selling and what things cost. I have heard from teams asking, is Clase available? Is Kwan available? Like, there are a lot of teams out there that want to know what the Guardians' plans are and how motivated they'll be to sell. I think everything's on the table. Like, there are things they could do that could improve their chances in 2025. Like, I think if they got rid of Carlos Santana and that cleared a spot for Kefis, that might help them this year.
Yes.
And it certainly would help them in the future, right? There are moves they could make that would be clear selling moves for the future, like trading Clase for some hitting prospects, right? So there's just a lot on the table. Usually when there's a lot on the table, a lot of times that means that not much happens.
Yes.
Because you're kind of sitting and waiting around to see. But I think this is going to go right up to the deadline. And with that in mind, like, how they play against a softer part of the schedule, I think is pretty important.
So a lot of interesting things you said there. The Guardians, you talk even after, the deadline, the last game they would play is the Colorado game. So we'll stick with the 13 games they have between now and the All-Star and the deadline. Obviously, as you said, they're playing bad teams. Let's say they go, they do really well. They go 9-4 in that 13-game stretch. They go 9-4 in the 13-game stretch. That's 5 games over 500. That would put them at 2 games over 500 at the trade deadline. But it would also mean they had won 15 of 19, I believe.
15 and 20, I think. Yeah,
50, something like that. So on one hand, you say,
15 you're of 30.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. So on one hand, you could say, well, they're playing great baseball for 3 weeks. On the other hand, they're 2 games over 500, and outside of the Astros, they've done it against crappy baseball teams. Does that prove that they can compete with the good teams in Major League Baseball, who you're going to have to play in the playoffs? Piling up wins against bad teams doesn't mean that things are fixed and they're a much better team. I look at this team, and the flaws have not changed. The flaws have not changed. Now, what could be a significant add? Shane Bieber certainly can make a big difference. But you've lost Luis Ortiz. I'm assuming he's going to be done for the year at the very least. So, and when are you going to get Bieber back? A month from now?
Yeah, he's starting tonight
Yeah.
in Arizona. So start that 30-day clock.
Right.
I would think, second week of August.
Yeah. So what are you going to get out of Beebe? Like, what's best case scenario? Regular season 6 starts.
Probably like 8.
Okay. Maybe you get 8. Okay. Could that make a difference between them making the playoffs or not? Could be. It's possible. If they make the playoffs and they have him and, Ciccone and these other guys cooking, would they have a shot? Sure, I'd give them a shot. But ultimately, are they going to be able to get through teams that, where they can't hit? They just can't. To me, there's no hope with the lineup right now. I know they hit well this past week, but even the worst, the Rockies had a good week offensively. It happens. I don't believe in this team, which is unusual for me. I don't believe that they're going to be a playoff team. Now, would I give the team a chance and maybe hold off on trading a future, a player like Clase or Kwan? I'd be shocked if they traded Kwan, but yeah, maybe. But like you said, trading Santana, I think, makes the team better, or at least at the very least, it raises their upside and potentially makes them better. Because if that leads to Keyfus coming up, I mean, obviously his upside is way higher than Santana.
Yeah, and you also, if you plan for Keyfus to be your first baseman or DH next year, let him like break in over the next 2 months.
And by the way, I just want to defend Kyle Manzardo a little bit because he's clearly been their third best offensive player, and yet he's the only one that gets constantly benched, which I don't understand. And everybody went nuts, that obviously that game where he made the 3 errors. And when you have a young player playing DH every day for 2 years, it's hard for him to be good at first base. You can practice all you want. You got to get those real game reps. And I think it's unfair. Like, oh, he's a terrible fielder. I don't know how good a fielder he is. I'm not sure. I haven't seen him play first base enough. But I can't write the guy off as a first baseman because of a couple of bad days when he never gets to play first base. And it's ridiculous how little he has played first base. And I do think if they call up Keyfus, they should have Keyfus and Manzardo both play half the time at DH and half the time at first base, so they both get good opportunities to play the position.
Nobody on this team can hit, so I'm not worried about first base defense.
Yeah,
at the moment, we'll figure that out later, right?
Yeah.
Like I think, yeah, the tough thing for me is you think about everything that would need to go right for this team to make a run, and I wrote this on The Athletic yesterday, and I was scripting out like their path back to contention, and you think about the series they played against the White Sox there.
Yeah.
And I mean, those games are tough. Like every game was close and it took, and so they don't score enough runs to ever blow anybody out.
No.
So when you win games, you are always using Clase and Kate Smith and Hunter Gaddis. And then you get in a game like, what day was it? Sunday, maybe? Saturday or Sunday, one of those games where they had to use like Festa and Junis to protect the lead, and they did. But so you think about, okay, well, the offense isn't good enough, and like they've trotted the same lineup out there for so long that at this point, like, you call up DeLauder, provided he's healthy, and maybe that's a little bit of an upgrade. Like you don't know, right? So no, there's no reason not to do that. But I'm just saying, like, the offense is what it is. And I don't think it's going to just magically become a great offense overnight. So that's going to put a lot of strain on the bullpen because you're going to be playing all these really close games. And so it's just like so much has to go right. They have no margin for error. And I think that's what makes it tough is like you could argue that if they believe that they can still be a contender, I mean, you could also look at this trade deadline as a way to get a head start on whatever you're going to need next year. Like if you can find it in 2021, remember that was the year they got rid of Eddie Rosario and Cesar Hernandez.
Oh yeah.
And they tried to get Brian Reynolds from the Pirates at that deadline. Pirates didn't move him. So they settled for Miles Straw. But you could see like they weren't good that year. And they still went and they were seeking an outfield solution for the future and the present. Like there's nothing stopping you from doing that now. No, it's tougher to do at the deadline because you're vying with teams that are actually in the race who need those things. But like, it wouldn't be the crazy. Could you go get a reliever that could help you? It could help you, especially if you might move Clase.
Yeah.
Even this winter, like it wouldn't be the worst idea to look into a reliever or an outfielder or something.
Yeah.
Like you're going to have these needs this winter
Right.
anyway. So there's a way, there's a scenario where you could do some buying and selling. But you're not going to turn this into a juggernaut overnight. So you have to be thinking about the future as much as you are the present.
Yeah. And I do think, and maybe I'll be proven wrong, or maybe we won't know because they ultimately won't trade him. But I do think, while I'd normally say, if you're going to trade Clase, maybe you wait till the end of the year or whatever. But I think I look at three teams: the Cubs, the Yankees, and the Blue Jays. They're big market teams. They're all three. I feel like all three are very desperate to win this year. For the Cubs, their GMs on the final year of his contract. They've been pretty bad since COVID. And they went all in on a trade for Kyle Tucker. He's a free agent at the end of the year. The Yankees are always desperate to win. And they're getting beat up more than usual, especially how they've played the last month. And the Blue Jays, they're always the bridesmaid on these big players, right? And plus, Bichette's a free agent. I know they signed Guerrero, but Bichette's a free agent at the end of the year. And all three of those teams need bullpen help. So it could be a scenario, and I'm just going with those three. I'm sure there's.
I think you're missing a big one.
The Dodgers. Who?
The Phillies.
Yeah, that's another one. You're right.
They're
even more desperate. You're right. They're even more desperate than those other teams in the bullpen.
They would do anything for Clase and for Kwan.
Ooh. Yeah, how's the Phillies farm system? I really haven't looked at the Phillies farm system as much. I know
they've got some pieces.
Decent.
They've got Andrew Painter, Mick Abel, Aiden. What's the shortstop's name?
Do they have top
Aiden Miller
prospects?
And Justin Crawford is an outfielder, and the Guardians have liked Justin Crawford in the past. There's a lot of skepticism on whether his hit tool will translate to the majors. Super athletic though. But yeah, and Dave Dombrowski only knows how to operate one way, and that's
true. Good point.
Sell the farm for the present tense, and that roster is their starting rotation is loaded, but their lineup's pretty old, and I think they know that window's closing.
That's a great point. I should have added them in that group. So there you go. And the Dodgers, their bullpen's been a bit of a disappointment. Tanner Scott has struggled. And they always seem to have 1,000 injuries in their pitching staff because they can afford to take a chance on injury-prone players. So they're always in the mix on any good player. So that's a lot of firepower in those those five teams that could lead to something. And ultimately, and no matter what the Guardians' record is, better than anybody, Zach, that if they get a deal that they love, they're going to trade Clase 100%. Now, they're not going to settle in this situation, nor should they. But if they get blown away with an offer, they'll trade him, no matter what their record is.
Yeah, it's an interesting case because you get the motivation to move someone in July is teams are super desperate, right? Like that's like I know the Phillies really like they want to know what the Guardians are going to do. Part of the motivation for waiting till the offseason is you just have more suitors. So maybe the desperation level, the urgency isn't there.
Right.
But there are more teams who think, Clase would be a good fit. Like we think we're going to win this year. The thing is, he's got 3.5 years of control.
Right.
So the Guardians have the leverage. They don't have to deal him now. He's going to have just as much value this winter. But them. Like they're always going to listen. They've listened on Clase before, and they're always going to trade a pitcher too soon instead of too late. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he's dealt this winter. It's tough for me to wrap my head around a deal that they'd like this month, but I don't think that's off the table. And you can read about, the Guardians maybe saying like, oh, like guys aren't for like Never buy into what GMs are publicly saying.
Oh yeah,
this time of year. If you see something like this guy's not for sale, well, of course, you're not going to say, "Oh, we're open for business. Come get Clase," right? So, we'll see. The Guardians are one of the more interesting teams to monitor, I think, this month because I think I think there's a lot of teams that want to know what they're going to do.
Our last thing I want to hit on, and that's obviously the MLB draft. By the way, can baseball get anything right? Why would you start the draft on Sunday when there's still game? Like, why not do the draft?
Why would you
Wednesday,
play
Thursday?
why do you play the futures game on a Saturday afternoon when there's a full slate of games?
Idiotic.
Yeah.
Why not have the futures game like the Monday of the home run derby or even
Or
the
the Sunday
Wednesday after?
night.
Sunday night, fine. Right, because there's no game Sunday night. And then do the draft tomorrow and Thursday when there's no games on.
There is not a person in the baseball industry, aside from maybe the league office, who likes the draft this time of year. You know, it used to be a month earlier. And they're trying to figure out who they're trading and do all this work with 29 other front offices.
Right.
And at the same time, you have to be fully focused on the draft. And it's
Right.
part of the reason why a lot of trades now don't happen until July 30th, because they can't focus on that until the draft is completely in the rear view.
It's a good point. Why not? And if it helps to move the All-Star game up a week or 2 weeks, whatever, like if that helps get the draft going earlier. It is a weird circumstance that they're in. The Guardians, I have a guy I work with for my podcast who lives down in Louisiana. He's a big college baseball guy. I don't know much about college baseball, but he was just telling me this morning that he loved the Guardians draft. He thought they had one of, if not the best draft. Now, you never know, even for guys who know college baseball, but the Guardians took almost all college players outside of a couple of guys. And he thought they hit an absolute home run. Jace Laviolette of Texas A&M is the guy the Guardians picked. This guy is kind of out of character for what the Guardians normally do. I mean, he's like 6'6", big slugger, strikeout. He's going to strike out. It was kind of unusual that they drafted that type of player.
It's a fascinating choice because he is going to need help, right? Like, you need the right hitting development people around him, because he had such a good sophomore year that there was chatter about him going number 1 overall. Like, this was a dude who just I think he had 29 home runs in 68 games and had a good chase rate, and like the ingredients were there where he could have been like a Jack Caglione or a Nick Kurtz type of hitter, guys who were taken early in the first round last year and made it up to the big leagues pretty quick. And then he struggled a little bit, and there's been a lot of concern about him swinging and missing at pitches in the strike zone, which is usually a big warning sign.
Yeah.
And so, I talked to some, like Keith Law is our guy at The Athletic, and
he's great.
He has major concerns about this guy, but also loved the pick because at 27, like,
why not?
You're going to bank on the upside and take a risk. The Guardians have taken risks. Like, they took Brady Aiken with their first pick. Remember that whole saga? He went number 1 overall and didn't sign with the Astros, and then had Tommy John surgery. The Guardians still took him, and he never made it. They've done this kind of thing before. So it's interesting, but it's the Guardians. And like, do you trust that they're going to help this kid make the right swing changes or just get him on the right developmental path? Like, this is a big test for them.
Yeah. Anything stand out with the rest of their draft? I mean, any notes on some of these other guys?
No, the only thing was just the sheer number, especially early on, of just college hitters, right? So if you look at their top prospects list right now, it's all like the top 10 is almost all position players. Right. So this is an organization that has done really well at developing pitchers. We know that. And they're doing everything they possibly can to replicate that on the other side. And so here you go. You've already got Bazana, DeLauder, Jason Churio, Angel Hanau, Ralphie Velasquez, Cooper Ingle, Juan Brito. All those guys are at the top of your prospects list, and you'll see those guys in the next couple of years. And now you're going to add a bunch more 21-year-olds who you hope can join them. And so it's almost like we could look up a few years from now and either this is a colossal failure or they've figured it out. And
let's hope for the latter there.
Yeah.
The only thing, something that stood out to me, the only two things that stood out to me is, like you said, a lot of college players and a lot of college players from big time programs.
They love the SEC.
Yeah. And then they drafted a guy with a great name in the 17th round. They drafted a catcher out of Tennessee named Cannon Peebles. How do you not love that name? I mean, that's such a good name. We got to get him to the big leagues. I was reading about him. They say he's like one of these. He's like a great leadership guy. I don't know if he's good enough to play in the majors, but
yeah. So Lonnie Chisenhall's two sons are named Cutter and Cannon, and so if they don't become major league pitchers, it's quite the disappointment.
It is wild now how old you feel when you see like Mark McGwire's son was in this draft. CC Sabathia's son was in, and he's a big. Where did he go? I didn't even see where.
I didn't see. Well, the Guardians drafted a kid in the second round, I think, or like maybe the competitive battle, the supplemental pick.
Yeah.
Number 70 overall, who was born July 7th, 2007. Like, if that doesn't make you feel old,
God, 2007.
Yeah.
Wow, that is that's crazy. I know Craig Counsell's son was drafted. There's a lot. Well, obviously, Matt Holliday's other son got drafted there. Unfortunately for him, to the Rockies, but I don't know. I guess we'll see. Anyway, let's get some comments from the fans, then we'll hit the road. Jack says, "Can you explain Bieber's option for next year? How it works?" He's going to opt out if he's healthy. That's the bottom line. But go ahead.
Yeah. So they guarantee him $10 million this year. Then he'll it's his choice. He can either take a $4 million buyout. So really, the guarantee's $14 million. You're paying him at least $14 million this year for probably 8 starts.
Yeah.
Or he can opt in for $16 million. So $12 million difference, which is probably not enough to make him opt in, especially if he's healthy.
I mean, the only way he's opting in is if he has to have Tommy John surgery again.
Yeah, like if he doesn't come back at all. But even if he doesn't come back, or he looks rusty, or the numbers aren't good, he could opt out and just sign a different 1-year deal with anybody.
Yeah, exactly. Uras, as Kwan said last night, he wants to stay in Cleveland. Why not? Well, any player is going to say that, and I'm sure if they offered him a fair contract, he would be happy to stay, or what he saw as a fair contract. Listen, guys like Stephen Kwan, and there's not many of them, are hard to figure out how much to pay them, because he just is. He doesn't hit home. The only flaw in his game is he doesn't have power. And that's what gets you paid for the most part.
Yeah. On one hand, I want to say, remember when he was hitting 400 last summer, and Tyvis Powell guaranteed everybody that he was going to hit 400, and you look up at the end of the season, he hits like 290.
Yeah.
But he also he was beat up at the end of the year, and he went on the injured list for a little bit with a back injury, and this year he's had some wrist issues, but then on the other hand, I'm like, well, players go through this, and everybody's beat up. And so, there are flashes where I'm like, man, this dude could hit 330 for a season, and I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, right.
But, most years, like right now, he's down to 285.
Yeah.
And so I'm stuck I really struggle to figure out what he's worth on the open market.
Right.
But I also know that at this point, he's going to make like $8 million in arbitration next year. And so the motivation for him to sign a long-term deal is probably pretty small.
Yeah, exactly. He's certainly not going to sign a team-friendly extension. No. Diesel says, what young prospect will make a real impact on this team first? Is it had none, besides Kwan, there hasn't been one in a long time.
Yeah, I mean, DeLauders could be an answer. The one guy I'm not giving up on for this season is Juan Brito.
Okay.
He's sidelined right now. I think there's a path for him to be up in September. I just like his profile. Like, he started hitting for a lot of power last year. He had 40 doubles, 21 homers, and he's always been a guy who's got good walk to strikeout numbers. I don't know where he fits defensively. Second base is his natural position, but he's played some third, first, corner outfield. But I just a switch hitter who can be patient at the plate and maybe have a little pop, like they desperately need that.
Yeah. All right, we're going to leave it there for now, folks. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We'll probably be back on Monday next week. We'll let you know. And we'll talk to you then after the All-Star break. Hopefully the Guardians get off to a good start, and then we'll see what happens. We'll talk to you next time on the Ultimate Cleveland Guardian Show.